The morning sun filtered through the windows of the Fox News studio in Manhattan, catching the glint of the silver Emmy displayed proudly on the bookshelf behind the host's chair. It was Tuesday, Culture and Country Day on the Queen Latifah Hour, a nationally broadcast talk show that had, over the years, evolved from lighthearted entertainment to a serious space for political discourse. Latifah was prepping for a very special guest, a new age firebrand, rising conservative star, and the current White House press secretary under President Donald Trump, Karoline Leavitt. America was still grappling with the political aftershocks of Trump's unprecedented return to office. The 2024 election had been one of the most polarizing in U.S. history, and Karoline, only 30, had quickly become the new face of the MAGA movement, sharp, unrelenting, and unapologetically bold. Her viral press briefings often left reporters stunned and critics scrambling. Queen Latifah, a lifelong Democrat and a passionate advocate for minority communities, was cautiously optimistic about the interview. She wasn't looking for a fight, but she wanted answers. Her producers warned her, Karoline doesn't pull punches. But Queen Latifah had earned her place in American hearts not just through entertainment, but by standing her ground with grace and conviction. At 11 a.m. sharp, the cameras rolled. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a very special edition of the Queen Latifah Hour. Today, we're honored, or perhaps challenged, to welcome one of the most talked about figures in American politics today. Karoline Leavitt. Karoline walked out in a crisp white blazer and navy blue skirt, her golden hair tied back in a power bun, her heels clicking with purpose. The applause was polite, though scattered. Some in the audience were MAGA fans, others skeptics, but all knew something electric was about to happen. Latifah smiled, extending a hand. "Welcome to the show, Karoline." "Thank you, Queen. It's a pleasure to be here," Karoline responded smoothly, taking her seat. The first few minutes were cordial. They discussed Karoline's upbringing in Atkinson, New Hampshire, her rise through the conservative ranks, her days as a journalist, and her first time walking into the West Wing under Trump's second term. Then, Queen Latifah's tone shifted slightly. "You've become one of the most powerful voices in American politics," she said. "Some call you fearless. Others call you dangerous. Let's talk about your critics, those who say you've helped spread division and misinformation." Karoline didn't flinch. "Queen, I respect you. But those critics often fear truth that doesn't match their narrative. My job is to speak directly to the American people, not to sugarcoat." Latifah leaned forward. "Speaking of truth, there are concerns. Last month's executive order on media restrictions. Many say it muzzles free speech. You were one of the architects of that order." Karoline's eyes narrowed slightly, the signature steel behind her smile showing. "It doesn't muzzle speech, Queen. It holds outlets accountable for knowingly spreading falsehoods under the guise of journalism." Latifah was ready to respond, but Karoline raised her hand subtly. "And while we're on the topic of truth," she continued, glancing off camera, "I think it's time the American people knew what's really going on behind the scenes. Not just in media, but in the very circles claiming moral superiority." A hush fell over the studio. Latifah blinked. "Behind the scenes where?" Karoline turned to face the camera directly. "Right here in Hollywood. In music. In culture. The very institutions lecturing Americans about decency have skeletons, big, ugly, undeniable skeletons. And I have the files." Latifah looked confused. "Wait, what do you mean?" Karoline pulled out a manila folder from her handbag and placed it on the table between them. "I didn't come here just to be interviewed," she said quietly. "I came to expose the hypocrisy. These files contain evidence of collusion between certain Hollywood influencers, media executives, and foreign lobbyists. Money trails, contracts, private memos." Latifah's jaw tensed. Karoline looked her square in the eye. "And some of those names include people you've worked with." The room froze. The audience shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The director waved at the producer behind the scenes should they cut to commercial? But this was live. Latifah's voice was calm, but it quivered faintly. "You better be careful, Karoline. These are serious accusations." Karoline didn't flinch. "I'm not accusing you, Queen. But I am saying that silence and complicity have gone hand in hand. You once said, when you know better, you do better. Well, now you know." The screen split into two, showing the faces of both women in high-definition close-up, the composed storm that was Karoline Leavitt and the blindsided, resolute Queen Latifah. Cut to black. The moment the screen went black, the internet exploded. Social media platforms like X, formerly Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube lit up with clips from the now infamous segment. Within 10 minutes, the hashtag Latifah versus Karoline was trending globally. Everyone had an opinion. The left accused Karoline Leavitt of grandstanding. The right hailed her as a truth-teller. And the undecided were simply stunned. Back in the studio, Queen Latifah sat stone-faced during the sudden commercial break. Her crew circled around her, buzzing with anxiety. Her longtime producer, Marcia Klein, whispered, "Do we pull her off? Or do you want to keep going?" Latifah's hands were folded in her lap. She wasn't a woman easily shaken, but this was different. Karoline didn't just show up with conservative talking points, she came with documents and confidence that something bigger was behind it. "No," Latifah said after a deep breath. "We go back in." The cameras returned from commercial. A deep voice announced, "We're back on the Queen Latifah Hour live." Latifah offered a gracious but firm smile. "Welcome back. If you're just joining us, we're here with Karoline Leavitt, the White House press secretary under President Donald Trump." Before the break, she made some very serious claims about Hollywood and media figures being part of what she called coordinated collusion. Karoline nodded, perfectly composed. "That's right." Latifah continued. "You said you had files. Evidence. Would you like to clarify what exactly is in those folders?" Without hesitation, Karoline picked up the manila envelope and slowly opened it. These are scanned communications, emails, text messages, internal memos between public relations teams in Los Angeles and entities registered as foreign agents. They include talking point memos sent to podcast hosts, media anchors, and even late-night show writers. These scripts were aligned with policy objectives from certain foreign governments designed to influence American opinion subtly, especially on issues like energy, border control, and censorship. She pulled out one page and held it up. "This one," she said, "is from a PR firm contracted by a Hollywood union. It recommends promoting anti-pipeline messaging across various media, including cameos in primetime dramas, Instagram influencer campaigns, and celebrity endorsements, all funded indirectly by a front for an overseas petrostate." The audience gasped. Latifah's face stayed unreadable. "But how do we know these are real?" she asked. "Documents can be fabricated." Karoline smiled. "Great question. These documents were obtained by independent whistleblowers and verified by the DOJ. We're releasing redacted versions to the public this afternoon. Transparency is the goal." Latifah's fingers drummed the table. "You mentioned earlier that I've worked with some of these names. Are you suggesting I've been complicit in something unethical?" Karoline's tone softened, not out of pity, but precision. "Not necessarily. But I do believe many celebrities have unknowingly lent their credibility to agendas they didn't fully understand. You've done voiceovers, appeared in campaigns, supported foundations. Did you ever ask where the money came from?" Latifah looked down. For the first time in the interview, there was a crack in her armor. "I assumed due diligence had been done," she said quietly. Karoline leaned in. "That's exactly what they counted on. That people like you, trusted, beloved, would never question the source. That's how influence works." Backstage, Marcia Klein stared at the monitors. She knew ratings were going through the roof, but she also knew Latifah's team would face backlash from both sides. Some would accuse them of platforming disinformation, others would say this was the bravest episode in daytime TV history. Then the unexpected happened. Queen Latifah turned to the audience and said, "Let's open this up. I want to hear from everyday Americans watching this. We've got a live call line. Let's take a few." The phone bank lit up instantly. The first caller, Michael from Ohio, was breathless. "Hi, Queen. Wow. This is wild. I don't know what to say. I'm a truck driver and I always thought celebrities were just out of touch. But if this stuff is true, we're being lied to from all directions." Another caller, Tamika from Atlanta, was furious. "Karoline, how dare you come on here and attack a black woman's legacy? You act like you're saving us when you're part of a machine that wants to erase people like me." Karoline didn't flinch. "I'm not attacking anyone's legacy. I'm attacking the manipulation of everyday Americans, black, white, Hispanic, doesn't matter, by elites who pretend to be for the people while cashing foreign checks." Tamika was cut off mid-rant as the segment ended due to time. The screen faded out again, but not before Queen Latifah made a cryptic closing statement. "Next week, I'll respond in full. I have some investigating to do myself." Boom. The seeds were planted. Trust shaken. Loyalties tested. And Karoline? She stood at the epicenter of a cultural earthquake. The day after the broadcast, American media entered a frenzy. CNN called it one of the most shocking live confrontations in daytime television history. Tucker Carlson praised Karoline Leavitt on X, declaring, "This is what courage looks like in a town built on lies." Joy Behar slammed the segment as a carefully staged attack on free thinkers, while Joe Rogan invited Karoline for a 3-hour podcast. The White House didn't remain silent either. President Trump, never one to miss an opportunity to stir the pot, tweeted on Truth Social. "Great job by my press secretary, Karoline Leavitt. The radical left is terrified of truth. Hollywood's fake moral superiority is crumbling. #mega. By noon, the Queen Latifah Hour announced a follow-up special to air the following week, titled Unmasked, the Influence War Behind American Entertainment. But Queen Latifah? She wasn't waiting 7 days to act. That same night, she met with her longtime friend and civil rights attorney, Devin Briggs, in her Los Angeles home. "I need to know if any of what Karoline said has legs," Latifah said, pouring herself a glass of wine. Her usual aura of cool confidence was laced with tension. Devin nodded, opening his laptop. "I've already started digging. I found that one of the PR firms she mentioned, Global Resonance, is real. And yes, they've worked with both Netflix and a few music festivals you've performed at. Their biggest client? A media company with partial investment from a Middle Eastern sovereign wealth fund." Latifah's brow furrowed. So, she's not bluffing. She may be exaggerating, but not bluffing. The connections are real. The money trails are there. What we need to figure out is intent. "Were they just buying influence?" she asked, "or were they buying silence?" Devin sighed. "Sometimes there's no difference." Meanwhile, across the country in Washington, D.C., Karoline Leavitt stood behind the White House podium in the James S. Brady press briefing room. She had just finished her daily press conference, and reporters were still buzzing about the files she dropped on national television. Some pressed her for more revelations. Others demanded she provide names. "Transparency doesn't mean recklessness," she told them. "We're redacting names of those who were unknowingly involved, but yes, we're continuing to investigate institutional corruption tied to foreign influence." When a reporter from MSNBC asked if the president authorized her to release the files, she responded coldly, "President Trump believes in the truth. I have his full confidence." After the conference, she was escorted to the Oval Office. Trump sat at the resolute desk wearing his usual dark suit, his face lit by the glow of multiple television screens playing different news channels. He leaned back in his chair and clapped slowly. "You've shaken the whole damn hive," he said with a grin. Karoline gave a nod. "Just getting started, sir." Trump chuckled. "You're something else." Latifah didn't know what hit her. "But be careful. Hollywood doesn't just make movies, they make kings and kill careers. And they're coming for you now." Karoline didn't blink. "Let them." Across the country, protests erupted in both support and outrage. In New York, a group of liberal artists held a rally outside the ABC building, demanding an apology from Karoline and the Trump administration. In Texas, hundreds gathered to support her, waving American flags and signs that read, "Hollywood lies. Leavitt tells truth." Conservative influencers started a podcast series titled The Hollywood Hoax, fueled by the story. A documentary crew offered to produce a film. The culture war had found its newest battleground, and Karoline Leavitt was standing in the center like a lightning rod. But not everything was going her way. 2 days later, anonymous insiders leaked partial emails from within the Trump administration itself. The leak alleged that the White House had long known about foreign influence campaigns, not just in Hollywood but also in corporate America, and had selectively decided which to expose. This put Karoline in a tight spot. If she acknowledged it, she'd look hypocritical. If she denied it, the media would eat her alive. But Karoline had a plan. That night, she announced she would appear again on the Queen Latifah Hour. A second showdown was on the horizon. The announcement that Karoline Leavitt would return to the Queen Latifah Hour sent shockwaves across every major network. CNN, Fox, MSNBC, even entertainment-focused platforms like TMZ and ET all led with the teaser. Round 2, Queen Latifah and Karoline Leavitt set to face off again. What will happen next? In LA, Queen Latifah sat quietly in her dressing room reviewing the leaked documents that now implicated not just celebrities, but also business moguls, studio heads, and even government officials across multiple administrations, including Trump's first term. Devin Briggs, seated beside her, looked exhausted. Karoline's playing a game of controlled demolition. She's not just exposing corruption, she's choosing what falls and what stays standing. That's dangerous. Latifah, dressed in a sleek charcoal suit, looked in the mirror and said, "Then it's time I stop asking questions and start demanding answers." Back in Washington, Karoline prepared for war. She wore her signature sharp white blazer, hair in a tight bun, and carried a single folder with her. A new set of documents not yet released to the public. Her advisors urged her to tone down the aggression for this round. The leaks had raised questions about the Trump administration's own connections, and critics were circling like vultures. But Karoline wasn't interested in appeasement. "This isn't about party lines anymore," she told her deputy. "It's about who's controlling the narrative. And I'm not letting the American people be puppets." The stage was set. As the broadcast began, the studio audience was eerily quiet. Everyone could sense the weight of what was about to unfold. Latifah welcomed viewers with a serious tone. "Last week, this show became ground zero for one of the most controversial revelations in modern media. Karoline Leavitt made allegations about foreign influence in American entertainment. Tonight, she's back. And this time, I have questions of my own." Karoline entered to a mixed chorus of applause and murmurs. She took her seat calmly, nodding respectfully at Latifah. Latifah leaned forward. "I've reviewed the documents. Some of them, frankly, are damning. But there's something missing from all this. Selective exposure. Your administration knew about these influences years ago. Why are you just now choosing to act?" Karoline didn't flinch. "Because it wasn't just about what we knew," she replied. "It's about what we could prove. These networks go deep. If we had acted earlier without solid whistleblower protections or documented trails, we'd have been accused of conspiracy peddling. And more importantly, the courts wouldn't have backed us." Latifah raised an eyebrow. "So the Trump administration sat on this until it was politically convenient?" Karoline's voice sharpened. "We sat on it until it was legally actionable. That's the difference between political theater and institutional reform." Latifah fired back. "But let's be honest. This scandal now implicates not only the liberal elite but also billionaires who backed both parties, including Trump allies. Why expose one side and protect the other?" Karoline leaned in. "I'm not protecting anyone." In fact, she slid the folder across the table. "These are financial disclosures from super PACs dated during the 2020 and 2024 election cycles. You'll see foreign money entered both liberal and conservative pipelines. And yes, some of it benefited Trump's first campaign." A gasp filled the room. Latifah opened the folder, her face changing as she scanned the first page. "You're telling me your boss, President Trump, knowingly accepted foreign-backed donations?" Karoline nodded. "He did, just like most candidates did. The system was rotten long before we arrived. But the difference is we're willing to blow it up now." Latifah stared at her, stunned. "You just admitted on live television that the president broke federal law." Karoline stood up. "No, I'm admitting that the law is broken. That foreign funds were laundered through layers of PACs and shell corporations. Legal loopholes that were never closed. The people watching this deserve to know. America is not run by elections. It's run by those who fund them." The studio fell into silence. Then, Queen Latifah did something unexpected. She stood as well and looked directly into the camera. "You just heard it. On this show, not from a leak or a spin doctor. The game is rigged. And if we don't start unrigging it together, we've already lost." Karoline nodded. "I'm not your enemy, Queen. We might not agree on everything, but I think we both want the same thing: truth." The episode ended with no music, no applause, just a simple fade to black and 5 chilling words on the screen. "To be continued, in court." 2 weeks after the second Queen Latifah Hour face-off, America was no longer the same. Karoline Leavitt's revelations had set off a domino effect. The Justice Department, under pressure from bipartisan congressional leaders, launched a formal inquiry into foreign campaign financing, entertainment lobbying, and super PAC laundering. Queen Latifah, meanwhile, became an unexpected ally in the truth-seeking movement. Her reputation, once purely entertainment royalty, had evolved into something more, a rare voice bridging political divides. While critics accused her of platforming propaganda, millions saw her as courageous for standing toe-to-toe with the most controversial press secretary in modern history. In the White House, President Trump played it like a maestro conducting a symphony. On Truth Social, he posted, Even Hollywood sees the truth now. Latifah did good. But Karoline? She's our American Joan of Arc. Karoline was inundated with offers from publishers, filmmakers, and think tanks. But instead of cashing in, she doubled down. She launched Project Glasshouse, a bipartisan initiative to force real-time public transparency for political donations over $10,000. Her first supporters? Independent voters and younger Democrats. But then came the subpoenas. The documents Karoline handed over during the second interview implicated over 200 individuals, including high-level donors, former campaign managers, and even 2 sitting senators, one from each party. The Department of Justice had no choice but to move fast. And they did. Over the next month, headlines exploded. DOJ indicts media executives over foreign bribery. Hollywood money laundering scheme linked to tech giant. Senator Jameson resigns in foreign donation scandal. For Karoline Leavitt, this was validation. But it came at a steep cost. One night, as she left a closed-door meeting with security officials, a black SUV tried to ram her government vehicle near the Capitol. Her security team intercepted in time, but the message was clear: enemies were watching. And they were angry. Still, she didn't flinch. That same night, she went live on her personal broadcast channel and addressed the nation. To everyone trying to silence me, just know this: I'm not the only one. There are whistleblowers, journalists, citizens like you waking up. This isn't about red or blue anymore. It's about light versus shadow. Queen Latifah, watching from her New Jersey estate, felt the words echo through her soul. She called Devin immediately. I want to testify. He was stunned. Testify in the hearings? I was part of that system. I endorsed it. I made millions while never questioning the pipeline that pumped money into our shows, festivals, records. I didn't know at the time. But now I do. And I can't be quiet. In a move that shocked even the most seasoned political analysts, Queen Latifah appeared before Congress under oath during the public hearings that followed. She spoke honestly about sponsorship deals pushed by advisors who were later traced back to foreign PR networks, her own unawareness of their true origins, and how Karoline's bold move had changed her entire perspective. Truth, she said in her closing statement, doesn't always come dressed in the clothes you expect. Sometimes it walks into your life in a white blazer and blows everything wide open. Karoline, seated behind the hearing panel, gave the faintest smile. The hearings dominated American life for months. Protesters filled the streets, some accusing Trump and Karoline of orchestrating chaos, others demanding even more heads roll. Conspiracies flew. Celebrities panicked. Donors lawyered up. But something deeper was happening. Cynicism, long the default mode of American politics, gave way to curiosity. Millions of Americans, left, right, center, began asking better questions. Where does my information come from? Who funds it? Who benefits? And for once, they got real answers. Karoline Leavitt's Bombshell on live TV had begun as political theater, but it became something greater, a cultural reset. Months later, in an awards ceremony unlike any before, Queen Latifah received the National Medal of Freedom, not for her music, not for her acting, but for civic bravery. And standing beside her as the crowd rose to their feet in a thunderous ovation was the woman who had once blindsided her. Karoline Leavitt. Their handshake was symbolic. 2 women from different worlds, different politics, different styles, but bound by truth. As the credits rolled on the televised ceremony, the screen faded to black with one final message. Truth doesn't need a side. It just needs a voice.